during the harsh winter months of 1856, within an isolated region of Ohio's southeastern territory. 3 infant boys came into existence under conditions so remarkable that healthcare experts continue discussing their situation in whispered conversations even now. These children were delivered in the concealed cellar of a Quaker worship building on one of the most perilous evenings in the history of America's secret freedom network, and they manifested capabilities that challenged all established understanding of human mental and physical limits for more than 100 years. Their family line has protected information about the extraordinary things these children were capable of accomplishing. This information, if disclosed, would compel society to reconsider all our assumptions regarding the boundaries of human awareness. The account I'm preparing to reveal has remained untold beyond family documentation, never recorded in legitimate medical publications, and never discussed in scholarly environments. The proof has been intentionally concealed. However, this evening, the reality is finally revealed. Before we explore this disturbing narrative that originates in the shadows of America's most secretive rescue operations, I must understand something about your character. This content isn't suitable for all audiences. Only those courageous enough to face enigmas that question the fundamental principles of what we consider achievable. Should you count yourself among the select few capable of handling narratives that merge documented history with unexplainable occurrences, please subscribe immediately. Additionally, share in the comments which state you're listening from. I want to identify where my fellow seekers of mysteries are gathering this evening. The events you're about to discover occurred not in some far-off mystical territory, but here in America, within communities that could be disturbingly near to your own location. The narrative I'm going to share commenced on a freezing February evening when 3 existences entered our world in the most improbable location conceivable, setting into motion circumstances that would baffle medical professionals and researchers for countless generations ahead. The settlement of Cedar Mills, Ohio hardly warranted its designation in 1856. Containing a population of roughly 300 residents. It comprised merely a collection of humble dwellings, a general merchandise store, a metalworking shop, and the modest brick worship building that accommodated the area's Quaker congregation. Unlike their more expressive Christian neighbors, the Society of Friends in Cedar Mills conducted their religious practices quietly, their simple clothing and serious behavior reflecting a profound dedication to simplicity and, most significantly, to the revolutionary conviction that all human beings possessed equal value in God's sight. This belief had transformed their worship building into something far more hazardous than a religious sanctuary. It had evolved into Station 14 on the Underground Railroad, a vital stopping point for those seeking freedom as they traveled northward from Kentucky and Virginia. Elder Samuel Whitmore, whose work-worn hands revealed decades of agricultural labor, and whose intense gray eyes contained secrets that could condemn half the congregation, had been managing this secret operation for nearly 8 years. Below the worship building's plain, wooden flooring existed a carefully hidden cellar, reached through a concealed entrance beneath the speaker's podium. The cellar represented a masterpiece of desperate construction. Excavated manually over months of cautious effort, it extended nearly the complete length of the structure above. Heavy wooden supports held up the ceiling, while air circulation occurred through a clever arrangement of hollow fence posts that appeared ornamental, but delivered fresh air to those concealed below. During any typical week, between 3 and 15 freedom seekers might find shelter there, some for just one night, others for weeks, while they awaited safe transportation to the following station. February 1856 had proven especially hazardous. The Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 had encouraged slave hunters, who now moved freely throughout Ohio, with legal permission to reclaim human property. Professional bounty hunters like the infamous Garrett brothers had been observed in the vicinity for weeks, providing substantial rewards for details about Underground Railroad activities. The atmosphere in Cedar Mills was so tense it was almost tangible. Every unfamiliar visitor, every door knock after nightfall, every strange noise could indicate discovery and imprisonment. Against this background of fear and secrecy, a young woman had reached the worship building 3 days prior. She had provided only the name Ruth, stated she was 19 years old, and was clearly expecting a child, very clearly expecting. Samuel Whitmore had observed her enlarged belly, and immediately understood that she wouldn't be continuing northward for quite some time. What he hadn't anticipated was how quickly that child would arrive, or how significantly its arrival would alter everything they believed they understood about human nature. Ruth had traveled from a plantation in northern Kentucky, she revealed through quiet conversations. During her initial nights in the cellar, she spoke with the precise speech of someone educated to read, uncommon for someone in her situation, and conducted herself with dignity that impressed even the reserved Quakers. However, something else about her made people uncomfortable without fully comprehending why. She appeared to understand things, small details, but troubling in their precision. She would sense when someone was approaching the worship building, well before any sound became audible. She would decline food that subsequently proved spoiled, though it had seemed perfectly fresh. Most disturbing, she would sometimes gaze directly at whoever was speaking and quietly contradict their statements, not argumentatively, but with the serene certainty of someone who simply possessed superior knowledge. That gentleman who delivered the supplies yesterday, she had mentioned to Samuel's wife, Martha, during her second evening there. He claimed his name was Williams, correct? And said he was from Lancaster. Martha had confirmed this, puzzled. His name isn't Williams, Ruth had continued, her voice hardly audible. And he's never visited Lancaster in his existence. I don't understand his reason for deceiving you, but he did. Martha had dismissed this as the paranoid thoughts of a frightened, pregnant woman, until 2 days afterward when the man's true identity was revealed. He was indeed using a false identity, and had been asking questionable inquiries about the worship building's activities. The evening of February 23, 1856 commenced like numerous others in Cedar Mills, cold, dark, and deceptively peaceful. Samuel Whitmore had been conducting his evening prayers when a gentle knock came at the worship building entrance, followed by the predetermined signal. 3 rapid taps, a pause, then 2 additional ones. However, something felt incorrect from the moment Samuel raised the heavy wooden bar that secured the door. The freedom seeker who stumbled inside was named Joshua, someone Samuel had assisted previously. Yet Joshua's typical calm disposition had been replaced by barely contained panic. "They're approaching," Joshua gasped, his breath creating white clouds in the bitter air. "The Garrett brothers, and at least 6 others. They have dogs, and they know about this location." Someone revealed information. He paused, his eyes moving toward the cellar entrance. "They may be 2 hours behind me, possibly less." Samuel felt his blood become ice. During 8 years of Underground Railroad operations, they had never faced such a direct threat. The worship building had always been considered secure, protected by the community's reputation for honesty and their careful operational security. But if the Garretts were approaching with dogs and advanced knowledge of the cellar, someone had indeed betrayed them. The immediate challenge was evacuation. 7 people were currently sheltering in the cellar, including Ruth, who had been experiencing irregular labor pains throughout most of the day. Martha Whitmore had been monitoring her condition, but had hoped the delivery wouldn't occur for at least another week. Mother Nature, however, appeared to have different plans. As if summoned by Joshua's words, a low groan echoed from beneath the floorboards. Martha's complexion became pale. "Samuel," she whispered, "Ruth's moment has arrived right now." The following several hours developed like a nightmare crafted from ice and terror, while Samuel and 2 other men labored frantically to evacuate the remaining 6 freedom seekers through the worship building's hidden northern passage a hand excavated. tunnel that emerged nearly a quarter-mile away in a thick grove of oak. Tressie Martha and her daughter Rebecca descended into the cellar to assist with Ruth's delivery. What they discovered in that cramped, dimly illuminated space challenged every assumption they maintained about childbirth. Ruth was indeed experiencing active labor, but something was fundamentally wrong. She was displaying none of the typical indicators of distress or pain that accompanied difficult births. Instead, she lay completely motionless on the crude straw mattress, her eyes closed, her breathing steady and controlled. When contractions occurred, she didn't cry out or even tense her muscles. She simply waited as if listening to something only she could perceive. "How many children?" Martha inquired, pressing her ear to Ruth's swollen belly in the traditional manner of midwives. Ruth's eyes opened for the first time in an hour. In the flickering candlelight, they seemed almost glowing. "3," she said simply. "3 boys. They've been